You thought the quiet was healing, you thought the silence was your peace, but then the earthquake hit. This is chosen ones. A relative secretly uncovered your abuse, and the family is shaken. And the tremors, my friends, they are just beginning. Imagine the floor dropping out from beneath you, not just metaphorically, but with a sudden, gut-wrenching lurch that steals the air from your lungs. It's the kind of physical shock that rattles your teeth, sends a jolt of ice through your veins, and makes your vision blur at the periphery. One moment, you're standing on what you believed was solid ground, a carefully constructed narrative of your past, a fragile piece you'd fought tooth and nail to build. The next, the entire landscape buckles, revealing chasms you never knew existed. This isn't just news, it's a visceral detonation within your very core. The initial tremor isn't a thought, it's a sensation. A cold hand clamping around your heart, squeezing until it aches. Your stomach clenches, twisting into a knot so tight it feels like it might rupture. You might gasp, a choked, involuntary sound, or find your throat inexplicably dry, suddenly unable to swallow. Your muscles tense, ready to brace for an impact that has already arrived. This isn't just revelation, it's a somatic betrayal, a violation echoing through every cell that had learned to forget, to compartmentalize, to survive by denying the truth. This particular truth, delivered by a relative who had watched, who had silently gathered the fractured pieces of your life, is a double-edged sword. There's the blinding light of validation, the undeniable proof that your nightmares weren't fabricated, that the whispers in your own mind held a terrible weight. But simultaneously, there's the horrifying realization of just how deeply the lie was embedded, how many people knew or suspected and remained silent. The sheer audacity of the deception, the complicity of the bystander, crashes down with a force that leaves you winded. You feel not just betrayed by the original abuser, but by the very fabric of your family, the unspoken pacts of silence that preserved their comfort at the cost of your soul. Look, before we delve deeper into this seismic shift, I need to be blunt with you. YouTube has repeatedly restricted this channel, attempting to silence these vital truths, these uncomfortable narratives that challenge the status quo. The full, uncensored message, the raw truth we fight to bring you, exists in our sanctuary. You'll find the link in the description below. We will not be silenced, and we will not let your story be silenced either. The information, no matter how carefully delivered, feels like an assault. It's the abrupt shattering of a protective shell you didn't even realize you'd built. Memories, long dormant and shrouded in fog, begin to flicker at the edges of your awareness, sharp fragments cutting through the carefully curated amnesia. Your mind races, trying to reconcile the smiling faces, the family dinners, the holiday photographs, with the monstrous reality now laid bare. How could they? How did I not know? How deeply did this rot permeate everything? The questions hammer against your skull, relentless and unforgiving. This isn't just about an event, it's about the systemic cover-up, the collective blind eye that allowed the poison to fester. Your body is screaming, a silent internal scream, as it processes the unbearable weight of this new, terrifying clarity. Every nerve ending is alive, tingling with a mixture of rage, grief, and a bewildering sense of vindication that feels utterly hollow in its triumph. The world you inhabited just moments ago has evaporated, leaving you suspended in a terrifying void, exposed and raw. The initial quake of revelation has begun to settle, leaving behind not solid ground, but a treacherous, shifting landscape. For the chosen one, the raw shock of your abuse being exposed, the upheaval within your family, is now giving way to a pain that feels both familiar and entirely alien. This is the grief of the empty chair, a profound sorrow for a relationship that, in hindsight, was nothing but a cruel mirage. You're not merely mourning a bond broken, but grappling with the devastating realization that the connection you cherished, the love you believed in, was meticulously manufactured. That person, who occupied a vital space in your heart, was a phantom, an illusion sustained by manipulation and deceit. The chair at your metaphorical table, once seemingly filled by warmth and support, now stands starkly vacant, a monument to what never truly existed. It's a gut-wrenching experience to grieve someone who is still physically present, yet psychologically vanished, revealing their true self to be a stranger, or worse, an architect of your suffering. This isn't the clean, definitive grief of death, where absence is absolute. This is a corrosive, insidious loss, born from the shattering of your fundamental trust and the dismantling of your personal history. Every memory, every shared moment is now cast in a horrifying new light. The tender gestures, the reassuring words, the assumed intimacy, they become tainted, revealing themselves as calculated moves in a prolonged, insidious game. You're forced to reevaluate your past, not just the painful parts, but even the moments you held dear, recognizing them as hollow performances rather than genuine expressions of affection. The depth of this particular sorrow is often misunderstood. How do you mourn a relationship that was a lie? How do you grieve for a person who betrayed you so profoundly? Yet, the heart doesn't differentiate easily between genuine loss and the loss of a cherished fantasy. The pain is real because your investment was real. Your love, your hope, your yearning for connection, those were authentic. And now, you are left holding the fragments of what you thought you had, knowing that the person who should have been your anchor was, in fact, the storm. There's a gritty truth in recognizing that you have been loving an idea, a projection, an image carefully crafted to serve their agenda. The sheer weight of that betrayal can feel crushing. It shakes the very foundation of your perception, making you question not just them, but your own judgment, your own reality. That empty chair represents the profound void left by the absence of genuine, unconditional love from someone who was supposed to provide it. It's the space where authentic care should have resided, now filled with the chilling echo of what wasn't. This unique mourning process involves letting go not just of the individual, but of the deeply ingrained narrative you had about them, and perhaps about your entire family system. It's a painful unlearning, a dismantling of internal structures built on falsehoods. This isn't weakness, it's the arduous work of reclaiming your truth, piece by agonizing piece. Your sorrow is valid, your heartbreak justified. You are grieving the loss of an ideal, the loss of innocence, and the profound void left by a bond that was, tragically, nothing more than a carefully constructed mirage. The tremors through your family after the truth was laid bare are just the beginning. Now comes the often insidious pressure to just forgive. You will hear it from well-meaning relatives, from spiritual leaders, and even from the abuser themselves or their enablers. They will preach reconciliation, healing, and moving past it, often demanding that you be the one to bridge the chasm. But let me be unequivocally clear. Premature forgiveness is not an act of grace. It is a spiritual bypass, a dangerous shortcut that often re-victimizes the very soul. Forgiveness, when truly authentic, is a profound act of liberation for the survivor. It is a process that unfolds after pain acknowledged, boundaries established, and critically, accountability met. Offering absolution before these foundational steps is to hand back your power, to absolve the unrepentant, and to risk plunging yourself back into the very cycle you've just fought to escape. When pressured to forgive prematurely, you are being asked to ignore your pain, to invalidate your experience, and to deny the violation. You are being asked to set yourself on fire to keep others warm, to sacrifice your own healing for the comfort of those who caused or enabled your suffering. This is manipulation dressed in spiritual garb, not divine command. Forgiveness has been weaponized against survivors for too long. It's used to maintain power, silence dissent, and protect abusers within families and communities. True forgiveness is not a magic wand that instantly erases the past or its consequences. It's not about forgetting, it's about choosing not to let the perpetrator's actions define your future or consume you. But this choice can only be made from a place of strength, security, and validated pain. Before any thought of absolution can germinate, boundaries must be erected. These are not walls built in anger, but sacred fences for your protection, mental health, and spiritual integrity. They are declarations of acceptable and unacceptable behavior from this point forward. They communicate non-negotiable terms for any future interaction, or if interaction occurs at all. These boundaries must be firm, explicit, and backed by consequences if violated. This isn't about punishment, it's about self-preservation. It's about drawing a line in the sand and saying, no more, no further. Perhaps you are feeling the crushing weight of this battle, physically drained, as if every cell in your body is screaming for rest. This isn't merely emotional fatigue. It is spiritual warfare manifesting in your physical being. For those feeling this profound exhaustion, our Spiritual Warfare Handbook offers guidance on fortifying your spirit and regaining your physical strength. Find the link in the description below. Remember, your healing journey is not a race, nor dictated by the comfort of those who benefited from your silence or pain. Your right to anger, grief, processing, and accountability is paramount. Establishing robust boundaries is an act of profound self-love and courage. It is the necessary precursor to genuine healing, the only path to a forgiveness that is truly free, empowering, and yours, on your terms and in your time. Do not be bullied into granting absolution before the hard, sacred work of creating safety has begun. Your liberation depends on it. The structures we inhabit, both physical and relational, often reveal their true nature only when the temporary supports are stripped away. Imagine a massive construction project, a towering edifice rising from the earth. For months, perhaps years, it is enveloped in a web of scaffolding, a complex, interwoven lattice of steel poles, planks, and safety nets. It appears integral, part of the building itself, bearing weight, allowing workers to ascend and descend, providing the very framework that seemingly holds the nascent structure together. But the scaffolding is not the building. It is a temporary measure, a transient necessity for the construction phase, designed to be erected, utilized, and then meticulously disassembled once the true, enduring foundation and walls are complete. Many of us, trapped in the suffocating embrace of toxic family systems, have mistakenly identified the scaffolding for the foundation. We've come to believe that the temporary, often flimsy and conditional supports offered by the very individuals who contribute to our pain are in fact the essential pillars of our existence. They stood around the nascent structure of your life, presenting themselves as indispensable, their presence dictating your growth, your direction, even your very perception of stability. Perhaps they offered a semblance of order amidst chaos, a controlled version of comfort that kept you within their orbit, or even a twisted form of protection that perpetuated the abuse by obscuring its true nature from the outside world. This support was never meant to hold you up permanently. It was designed to maintain a particular, often dysfunctional, construction process. When your relative, with an act of quiet, seismic courage, chose to illuminate the darkness, they didn't just expose the cracks in the walls. They began the process of revealing the scaffolding for what it truly was. They started the arduous, terrifying work of showing you that what you thought was your unshakable foundation was, in fact, an external, provisional structure that could and needed to be dismantled. This revelation is often met with profound disorientation. To discover that the very supports you leaned on, the ones you believed were intrinsic to your being, were actually external, conditional, and ultimately detrimental to your long-term stability, can feel like the ground dissolving beneath your feet. It's a dismantling not just of relationships, but of an entire worldview. The work of removing this metaphorical scaffolding is agonizing. Each steel pole unbolted, each plank removed, can feel like a piece of your world crumbling. It exposes the raw, unfinished surfaces beneath, the unpainted walls, the unsealed gaps where light and truth can now flood in. It reveals the true, unvarnished structure of your past, what was genuinely built, what was left neglected, and what was intentionally hidden. It is a process of acute vulnerability, demanding immense bravery as you face the stark reality of how much of your life was propped up by something never meant to last. You might find yourself standing exposed, feeling the chill of an unfamiliar freedom, uncertain how to support yourself without the familiar, albeit toxic, framework. But this dismantling is not destruction, it is liberation. It is the necessary prerequisite for you to finally build your own authentic, robust foundation. The toxic individuals, the enablers, the silent witnesses who perpetuated the cycle they were scaffolding. Their purpose, whether intentional or not, was to facilitate a certain kind of construction, often one that benefited them at your expense. They were never meant to be the solid, unyielding bedrock upon which you could erect a life of genuine strength, peace, and self-worth. Understanding this distinction is paramount. It allows you to shift your focus from attempting to reinforce temporary structures to meticulously constructing the permanent, resilient edifice of your own identity, supported by true pillars of self-respect, chosen connections, and unwavering truth. The shock of their removal is profound, but the stability that follows, built on ground you genuinely own, is boundless. In the raw, uncomfortable tapestry of Scripture, we find a chilling precedent for the agonizing revelations that shatter families. Consider King David, at the lowest ebb of his life, fleeing Jerusalem from his own son, Absalom. As he makes his desolate journey, a man named Shimei appears on the hillside, hurling curses, stones, and dust at the tormented king. Come out, you man of blood, you worthless fellow." Shimei's accusations, though rooted in past sin, were a public degradation designed to break David's spirit when he was most vulnerable. His general, Abishai, in a surge of protective fury, asked David, "Why should this dead dog curse my lord the king? Let me go over and take off his head." The instinct to silence the accuser, to eliminate the source of discomfort and shame, is ancient, primal. But David, in that moment of profound humility and despair, held Abishai back. He said, "Let him alone and let him curse, for the Lord has told him to curse David." This was not an act of forgiveness in the common sense, nor was it an absolution of Shimei's malice. It was a strategic, spiritual resignation to a season of suffering, a king allowing the toxic vitriol to wash over him, believing it was part of a divine reckoning. Yet, David did not forget. When he returned to power, Shimei begged for mercy, and David granted him a temporary reprieve, but his final instructions to Solomon were clear. Do not hold him guiltless. Bring his whore head down to the grave with blood. This stark narrative underscores a critical truth for those grappling with unearthed abuse. The initial silence, the temporary tolerance of the transgression, does not equate to its erasure or ultimate acceptance. Often, the survivor, like David in his weakness, may be in no position to fight back immediately. The family, too, might enforce a devastating quiet, believing it protects reputation, preserves a fragile peace, or simply avoids the inconvenient truth. This forced silence, however, is a treacherous trap, far more insidious than any open conflict. It is not peace. It is a rotting core beneath a pristine facade. Silence is the abuser's most potent weapon, and the family's complicity, whether active or passive, becomes its suffocating shroud. Don't tell, it's a family secret. We don't talk about that. These whispered commands are designed to isolate the victim, invalidate their experience, and maintain the abuser's control. They create a twisted reality where appearance reigns supreme over justice, where the comfort of ignorance outweighs the agony of the abused. For generations, the weight of that unspoken truth crushes spirits, distorts relationships, and perpetuates cycles of dysfunction. The relative who secretly uncovered the abuse, shattering this silence, has unleashed a tempest. The family is shaken precisely because the false peace built on lies and denial has collapsed. It is messy, it is painful, it is terrifying. But in that seismic shift, there is also the first breath of true air. The King David story teaches us that some wounds, though endured in silence for a season, demand a reckoning. The truth, once revealed, may provoke immediate fury, Abishai. Temporary resignation, David, but ultimately, justice will seek its course. This is not about revenge. It is about reclaiming dignity, establishing boundaries, and dismantling the very systems of silence that enabled the horror. It is about understanding that some curses, once uttered, can only be broken by the courage to speak. If this resonated with you, don't ignore that feeling. Most people hear this and go back to the same patterns. Don't be one of them. The deeper breakdown, the real work, the full system, is inside the private sanctuary. No noise, no surface-level advice, just focused guidance for people who are ready to move differently. If you feel it, the link is right below.